Okay, good afternoon, grade 11th, and we will be continuing from where we stopped. In our previous lesson, we started a new topic, which is the marketing function. We looked at the 7 P's. We looked at how to locate your consumers. We spoke about standardization and grading. We spoke about storage, and also we look at risk taken by businesses and buying and selling. And today we'll be looking at the first P, which is the product policy, and that will be on page 9, if I'm not mistaken. And today we'll be looking at product development, which is an important part of marketing policy, because what do you market? You only market a product or a service. So when you're talking about product development, this is one of the main aims of all businesses, and it is a critical aspect for a business to develop new products. I actually want you to underline that it's very important for businesses to develop new products or improve their current product if they want to stay in the market, because consumers get bored, we get tired of buying same product, so we actually go to the shop to see if we can find a new product. And that is why it's very important for businesses to always come up with a new product, or sometimes they need to improve an existing product, like okay, change the flavor of a cool drink, because people are so used to an orange juice, then you can come up with a pineapple one, you can come up with a mango juice, and that is if they want to remain in the market. And at the same time, remaining in the market means if they want to remain competitive in the business environment. All goods and services that businesses wishes to sell go through a product development process. The process includes a number of stages which we're going to look into. So before a business can develop a product, before it can be sold to the consumers, what are the steps those, or the process those product actually go through before it is being sold? The first thing that comes into mind of a business is the idea generation. When you're talking about idea generation, it refers to looking at what people need. So it says that comes from a need from need survey. When you're talking about need survey, it's coming from the consumers, because that is where you do a market research, and that is where you see what people need, and you actually see what people want. And when you're talking about a need survey, let me give you a practical example. Sometimes when you go to all those shop, when a new product is about to be introduced into the business, they actually make like a small quantity, and how can I say it? They not like that. They even do a kind of a survey, or they do a kind of a research, and from there they could see, okay, let's look at the shelf. Why are people not buying this flavor? Maybe people are tired of this flavor. Let's see if we can come up with a new flavor. And from there, the business needs to do a SWOT analysis. You know what the SWOT analysis stands for? The strength, the weakness, and opportunities of that product. Creative thinking techniques, and at the same time, a market research. That market research is very important. And why do we keep on repeating that word market research? It is because the needs and the wants of consumers cannot be met if businesses do not carry out a market research. It's very, very important. So the idea generation is number one. Number two, the idea screening. Idea screening is done to determine if the idea is necessary, is feasible, and profitable for the business. So when you're talking about idea screening, okay, fine, we've generated the idea. The next thing will be like, is the business going to make profit from there? Because if the business is not going to make profit, it's pointless coming up with that idea. Number two, is it going to be affordable in terms of the production? Number three, is it necessary? Is there a need for that? Then number three, we have a concept development and testing. The concept development is when the market is tested to see how the product will best provide the necessary benefit, how best to produce the product in the most cost-effective way, affordable way, and at the same time, consumers' reaction to the product is also being determined. And yeah, what is going to be consumers' reaction? That needs to be put into consideration because the product you're trying to come up with is going to be consumed by the consumers. And number four, we have what we refer to as a business analysis. During this phase, the profitability, the break-even point, the sales volume, and the final selling price are being determined. So which means that when you look at the third one, let me quickly go back. It says that the market is tested to see how product will best provide necessary benefit, how best to produce the product in the most effective way, and consumers' reaction to the product is being determined. So which means that when you're looking at the consumer's reaction, you must actually look at what is going to be the affordability of the consumers. Can consumers actually afford that product? Will they be able to buy that product? That is being determined in the third process. So number four is now looking at the business analysis. What is going to be the profit of the business? What is going to be the break-even point? You know what break-even point is. It is a point at which the business doesn't make profit or they don't make a loss. So they actually sell it for the price of what, or for the price of a cost price. And sales volume and final selling price are being determined. And number five, we have what we refer to as a market testing. The actual sample product is produced, can you see? The actual sample product is tested in the market. And that is when businesses now brings in a representative. They stay in aisle in the shop and they ask people to test, just to give feedback about the product and so on and so forth. And also sometimes businesses will make just few items, and those are the items we find in the business on the shelf that is being written limited edition, because the business is still testing that product to see if consumers are going to buy it. And the actual product is tested in the market. Necessary adjustments are made according to the responses given by the market testing. So the market testing is also referring to the consumers. Sometimes they just tell you, okay, you just taste this new fish finger or chicken nugget and so on and so forth. Then you just give your opinion. Okay, sometimes the business will bring in a cool drink. They will ask you to taste it. You're like, wow, it tastes nice. Oh, it's not mine. The business is actually keeping track record of consumers' responses. And number six, we have the technical implementation. When you're talking of technical implementation, systems and processes are put into the production planning and control process. Planning, scheduling, monitoring, and quality control are worked out and put in place for production. So in a situation, before businesses can get into technical implementation, the response from the market testing will determine if businesses are going to implement it. So if consumers' response is not of a good one while the product is being tested, then the business is not going to implement that product. So number seven, we have commercialization. The product is launched, marketing and advertising campaigns are being implemented. And number eight, new products pricing. The product is priced and the forecasts are being worked out. So which means that during the time of testing, those products are always cheap. But the moment it's been launched and people are interested in the product, then the business will now come up with, okay, this is the price. They've already attracted the consumers into buying that product through the testing of the product. So those are the 8 stages of product development in the business before products can be sold in the shop. The business needs to sit down, they need to do a screening, they need to generate ideas, they need to look at the reason. Is it going to be profitable to the business? They need to look at what is going to be the affordable price consumers are going to buy it, and at the same time they can implement it. They can make posters, they can do TV advertisement, online advertisement, and from there the product is being sold, and a new price will be placed on that product. So let's now look at product design. A product needs to be designed to suit the needs of the consumers and the target market. The consumers are also the target market, and product design normally occurs at the beginning when the product is first being developed. Sometimes a product is adapted when sales start to fall in the decline stage of the product life cycle. Sometimes a product is being adapted. When you're talking about adaptation, it means that when sales starts to fall, then there's a kind of an adjustment that the business actually does to the product, just to attract the consumers. Product design comes from the development of new and innovative ideas. The process of designing a product starts with the idea and follows through the evaluation of the idea once it has been designed. So we now move on to product packaging. Most products requires some type of packaging. The type of product will determine the kind of packaging that is being needed. And we have 5 main purposes of packaging. I actually want you to underline that because I will be testing you on that. It's one of my interesting questions I like asking learners. What is the purpose of packaging? Why do you need to package your product? And at the same time, I always tell you, I think I've said it times before, maybe with the grade 12, we are actually buying packaging. Consumers buy package because sometimes we buy items that we don't even know the content. We've not even tasted it before. But because the packaging is attractive, because it's so comfortable, it's like, how can I say it? I can put it in my bag. I can put it, it's very comfortable for me to handle it. Then I'm going to buy that product. So packaging actually attracts the consumers. Take, for example, the kids. They don't even know what some cereals taste like. But because they can see a cartoon character on that package, they cry so hard for them to buy that item. Even if the content doesn't taste good. But because that package actually attracts that little boy, he's going to make sure he buys that product. So let's now look at the 5 main purposes of packaging a product. Number 1, to contain. The packaging is needed to contain the item or the product. For example, a cool drink in a bottle. Obviously, you wouldn't put a cool drink in a plastic bag. So a cool drink requires what? A bottle. Number 2, for information. Packaging indicates the brand. That is number 1. The trademark. The information about what? About the product. So when you're talking about the information, you're talking about the ingredients that is being used. So on that packaging, you can see if you are actually allergic to certain things that might be inside the product, that might be used in the manufacturing of that item. So you might be allergic. So when there is a package, you will be able to read and say, okay, here is my hand sanitizer. And fine, this is an example. Hand sanitizer needs a bottle to contain it. And at the same time, the information I can see, okay, it has alcohol, it has aqua, it has silver. So I can see if I'm allergic to anything. I can see when it's going to expire. That is the information on that packaging. Number 3, for protection. Packaging protects many products from germs, from breakage, from moisture, and from spoilage. That is very important. Number 4, for easy transportation. I actually want you to put it there. I don't want to look at it as just transportation. Easy transportation. Some packaging is designed to make the transportation of the product easier or safe. For example, when you transporting eggs, you can't put eggs in a bucket or in a container without using the right package, just to make it much easier when you transporting it. So we have eggs as an example of that. And lastly, for display, some products are packaged especially to look what? Attractive. That is very, very important. Perfumes and jewelry packaging are carefully designed as part of what? The marketing of the product. I want you to finish that sentence. Something is missing. Perfumes and jewelry packaging are carefully designed as part of the marketing of the product. So when you display it draws consumers. It makes it look attractive. And yeah, it draws them. And at the same time, we have jewelry, we have perfumes, and yeah, we have quite a lot of things that requires packaging in the business. So those are the 5 main purposes of packaging a product, which is very, very important. And I think one of the most important things is that it actually attracts consumers. It draws them, it brings them like, wow, this looks good, even if you've not opened it. But because the way it is being designed and you find it in a package, it actually attracts you. And that is that on the product packaging. And we have a trademark. What is a trademark? I think we've spoken about that in the last time. Trademark is a word, a phrase, a symbol or design, combination of words, a phrase, a symbol or design that identifies and distinguishes the source of the goods of one party from those of others. So when you're talking of one party, it's talking about your business from your competitors. That is what it means. That party is what? Your business, and it distinguishes it from your competitors, which is very important. A trademark or brand establishes an identity or reputation for a particular company or a product. A trademark is specifically registered and protected by law. Remember, we spoke about piracy. If you want to protect your product from being pirated, then you can take out a trademark on your product. This means that this name cannot be used by any other business or a person. Brand awareness is essential in marketing and advertising. Businesses spend a lot of time and effort to ensure that their trademarks and brands achieve a reputation for quality and value. Trademarks and branding create a sense of security, which is important, and consistency for customers. So businesses, if you want your product to be unique, let me use that word, you actually want to increase your profitability, you want to attract your more consumers, you must actually take out a trademark to protect your work from being pirated or from being photocopied. Then we now have a distribution policy. We're still talking about the product. So after product has been manufactured, you put them in a package, you put a trademark, then how do you distribute those products to the consumers? Distribution channels or channels of distribution. Distribution is a channel that a product follows from manufacturing to the consumer. So from manufacturing, I will say from producers to the consumer. Essentially that the channel is the most what? Effective. So when you're talking about a channel that is most effective, it mustn't be expensive, and at the same time it must actually be a channel that the consumers can actually reach. Channel must also be cost efficient. Okay, it's actually the third sentence. Channel must also be cost efficient for the product and reaches what? The target market. Why does it have to be a cost efficient? Because when you have too many channels in between the producer and the final consumers, your product is going to be expensive. And I actually want you to take a note. The more, how can I say it? The more channels you have, before you can get the product, the more expensive your product is going to be. So which means that when you look at the diagram underneath, here is the producer, who is the manufacturer, here is Mrs. Oyewoye. So if I go from being a consumer, then I go to the producer, my product is going to, the price of my product is going to be cheap. Why? Because there's no intermediaries in between us. Remember, this distribution channel is what we also refer to as what is as intermediaries, or we call them the middlemen, because those are the people in between the manufacturer and the consumer. So the more intermediaries you have, the more expensive your product is going to be. Please take a note. The more intermediaries you have, I'm putting mine down. The more intermediaries you have, the more your product is going to be expensive. The more expensive your product is going to be. The more intermediaries you have, the more expensive your product is going to be. Because remember, intermediaries are also businesses. So if an wholesaler goes to the producer to buy product, is using petrol, is going to charge you for transportation. Then the wholesaler, the retailer now goes to the wholesaler. The wholesaler will also charge you. So let's now take, for example, a producer makes bread for 5 rand. The wholesaler goes to the producer to buy bread. Then when he's selling the bread out, he's selling it for 8 rand. Because he needs to make profit. And wholesaler is a business. And it has been established to make profit. Then the retailer goes to the wholesaler to buy the bread. How much do you think the wholesaler will charge? 10 rand. Because of profit. And by the time you now go to the retailer to buy the bread, you'll be buying it for 13 rand. So why can't you go to the producer to actually buy the bread for 5 rand? Can you see? So that is why a producer must make sure that what? The channel is cost efficient for the product. So which means that the producer needs to give a good discount to the wholesaler and the retailer if he or she wants the consumers to buy it at an affordable rate. Which means wholesalers will buy in bulk, so there's going to be a discount. Okay? And the retailers also get a kind of a discount from the wholesalers, so that consumers are not going to pay an exorbitant rate for the price of a product. So choosing the best and the cost-efficient channel is very important for the product and to reach the target market. Most common distribution channels include wholesaler and retailer before the product reaches the consumer. Who are the wholesalers? The ones that sells in bulk. And we're talking about the retailer, the ones that sells in small quantity. Okay. For example, a sweet manufacturer will produce sweet and send them to the wholesaler in large quantities. The wholesaler sells sweet in large boxes at bulk prices to retailers, and the retailer will sell them to what? To the consumers. So the more intermediaries you have as a consumer before you can buy a product, the more expensive your product is going to be. And that is why most people, we prefer to go to what do we call it, the shop, the factory shop, because you get it for a cheaper price at the factory shop. There's no middleman between you and the producer. And sometimes you prefer to go to Macro as an example of an wholesaler. You prefer to go to Jumbo as an example of an wholesaler, because it's more cheaper when you buy from them compared to you going to Pick n Pay and ShopRite, because those are examples of a retailer. It's more expensive in ShopRite, Pick n Pay, compared to you going to Macro to buy in bulk, because when you buy in bulk, you buy at a cheaper price. So those are the examples of a distribution channel. So let's now look at the distribution channel. Let me see if okay. So let's now look at the distribution direct distribution. When you're talking about the direct distribution, I want to quickly make a correction here. It involves what? The producer to the consumer. So please take that out. It's not producer to producers. There's nothing like that. So you put what? Consumer. That is the example of what? A direct distribution. There is no intermediary. It involves only the producer and the consumer. The wholesaler and the retailers are cut out of what? The process. So let me give you an example of a direct distribution. You go to a woman that sells fried cook. That is an example of what? A direct distribution. Nobody is bringing the fried cook to you. Or maybe you go to Fridays, whereby you buy chips and chip roll or whatever. That is an example of what? A direct distribution. There is no one in between you and the producer. And we have what we refer to as intermediaries. So the moment you have intermediaries, I want you to put it in bracket. That is an example of what? An indirect what? Distribution. There are examples of indirect distribution because there is an intermediary in between you and the producer of the product. We have intermediaries. Refers to all the people that fall into the distribution process between the producer and the consumer. And we refer to them as what? The middlemen. Act as negotiators and mediators between the producer and the consumers. For example, we have wholesalers, we have retailers, we have agents, and we have brokers. Those are the examples of intermediaries. Those are the ones we find in between the producers and the final consumers. So yeah, I would like to add something to that maybe before I round up, and stopping here, then I'll continue in the next clip.